All the way from Madrid, Spain, Dragon Paul Byrne gives his SAP Sapphire 2025 update, direct from the conference floor.
Dragon ERP helped mid-tier leadership teams shape their SAP transformation journey. Request your copy of our SAP SaaS ERP Mid-Tier Customer Adoption Guide.
Right. Well, hello. Welcome to another Less Consulting Puff podcast. This is a very quick one. Fellow Dragon, Paul Byrne, is at Sapphire Madrid, and he's actually on the floor at the moment. So I thought this was a really good time just to have a quick word with Paul, see what's going on, and just get a feel for how Madrid has gone this week, following on from Alisdair last week. So hi, Paul. How's it going?
Good, Alisdair. Thanks for this. Sam, this is going to be, for me, I think it's the best Sapphire to date. The one thing that screams at me all the time is how many business people go on their own. They need someone like me or like you to buddy them, to show you around, because otherwise you're going to go to vendors, you're going to go to sessions. It's going to be information overload, because most people don't know what they're going to look for, and then they get lost in the noise is the wrong word, but they get just lost in the massive information.
I think that's really interesting, isn't it? Because then that's about getting lost in translation, isn't it? We talk SAP all the time, and we have to manage ourselves, don't we, about when we talk to customers, talking business speak rather than talking SAP speak. And I've just was talking an hour ago to a very senior CFO and with Gartner, and just talking about SAP, and the customer is immersed in all this stuff, but they still don't get it. They really just don't get what's going on. So what have you enjoyed most? What's been just call out for you?
I've always been a cynic about AI because it's the new fairy dust, slow dust. But I've actually have a really interesting perspective on it from SAP this time around, because they've got dual for consultants, dual for developers, and they've got, I think it's 230 business use cases. I was expecting only 100, because they've said by Christmas, last Christmas they were going to have 100. They've already got 236 or something like that. Sorry, I got the number. I'm lost in too much information myself, but there's a lot of business use cases out there.
Right. It's something like 240, and it was interesting because this Andrew CFO I've just been talking to is a very stellar bloke. He gets it. He's led lots of big global transformations, and he asked me a simple question, which was about the ability to use AI on top of a data fabric. And so we talked about Joule and about SAC and about how Joule now sits on top of BDC, and BDC is the data fabric. And I just said to him, look, and as we said in our podcast last week, Sapphire this year has been about SAP slowing down on the product front. Not a lot of talk about, hardly any talk about S4, bit of talk about CX, a little bit of talk about business network, a bit of talk about BDC, but it's AI everywhere, isn't it? AI everywhere. So you've got Joule across the entire business suite now. AI is embedded. You name it, you've got AI. What do you think of the robotics side of it, the NVIDIA piece, and Joule plugging into the robots?
You know me, I'm a cynic.
Yeah.
So that's toys for me. It's all good stuff down the line, right? I saw a video on YouTube the other day of two robots doing kickboxing. Please give me a break. That's not a business use case. Whether I like Conor McGregor or not, it's still much more fun watching two humans doing kickboxing. I don't want to watch two awkward robots doing it, right? Sorry.
No, I think you're right, but I think as I said today, I think you're moving. SAP is all about one thing at a time. Even though there's lots of plates spinning, there's always one thing, isn't there? So fucking clean core, or excuse my French,
Yeah.
or BDC, or something. But there's always one thing, and so the last year has been dominated by AI, and I think you'll see a shift now into robotics. I think 2026, 27 will all be about robotics. AI is going to be everywhere, and the user cases, as you said, and you got agent AI dropping in around BW and around everything. So it's about Andrew said to me, it's really interesting. So just let me get this note because I made it to myself in terms of SAP don't care about the churn onto S4. They don't care because they're making money whatever way. They're making revenue whether you're paying for licensing on ECC and BW, because they're just going to drop an AI. So they're going to make the revenue. And they're all about nurturing the client in terms of what to take next, but to drive revenue. So I think it's going to be robotics next, AI everywhere. So what else what else has tickled you this week, Paul?
Well, I've been meeting a lot of people. And a good thing, bad thing, but I'm walking down a hall and they're going, "Oh, you're Paul Byrne, aren't you?" I'm going, "Oh, no, someone else knows me." That's fun in a little bit. But I'm speaking to a steel company in the Middle East. They've gone live last December, and they've just told me about their journey. They had to get rid of their first SI. They weren't behaving very well, and they've got the second one on. They've got live, but they didn't know what they didn't know at the start, even though they'd come to us as Sapphires. So they were lost in confusion, and they got. We're not going to mention SI names, but they didn't know what to expect. So therefore, it's gonna go back to what I said in the first place. You come into Sapphire, you come into an event to find out. You gotta bring someone like Alisdair or Paul with you to guide you around, to navigate through the noise.
Yeah,
One guy said something to me. I thought this simply was brilliant. I met him at a coffee machine. He said, "What you're hearing today at Sapphire, most organizations are not plugging that into the system for 5 years, because
yeah,
they're way ahead of the curve, and the curve is great, but most of us are keeping our businesses running."
yeah. I think that's right because we're saying to Gartner type thing today about if S4 is now midway through its lifespan,
Yep.
okay, it's mid journey. If it's a 20-year life cycle, they're halfway through now. But in the next 5 years, all the early adopters will be coming off of S4 onto Agent AI,
Yep.
composable federated ERP. So next 5 years, you're going to have people leaving S4. You're going to have some people moving on to S4. You're going to have some people extending the lifetime of ECC now. But I just think it's really interesting, that point about the customer journey, and lots of customers aren't ready. And we're talking today about Dragon ELP's got that. We've got that customer engagement playbook. We've actually got a book ready for customers in terms of what to expect, how to get ready. We've got coming out in about a week's time now our enterprise AI guide to really help customers understand what you've been going through this week in terms of AI everywhere. And we've got our finance transformation playbook coming out for CFO. So hopefully the educational pieces we've got coming out and will be landing from now and through to September will help customers on the journey. And it's about how we sort of like get that messaging across. Any top tips coming out of Sapphire for the customers?
I'd say, look, you're spot on. The S4 will be 18 years old by 2033. SAP have committed to it to 2040, but you got to look at it slightly differently. How long did anyone ever plan ECC to be still around in 2025? And yes, there is the massive job, but people underestimate the the needs they've got to move. The business case still doesn't stack up for a brownfield. Um, Everyone's talking brownfield. People are trying to push greenfield. Many brownfields are turning into greenfields. Some people talk bluefield. I'm not a bluefield fan at all. I tend to shut that conversation down. But back to what you and I have discussed many times: hybrid approach. What's
Yeah,
best for you guys? Yeah.
I think you're right. I think Bluefield absolutely stinks. It's the worst of all worlds. The SIs who sort of like make a play for it should know better. I think talking about it the other day about brownfields really picking up a pace now because people want to get their ECC systems back in the fight. So they think that if they move to S4 brownfield, they can start to adopt more AI. But I made a note today, Paul, and let me read it to you. And it's not about S4 per se, but about RISE. So people get confused. S4 is our ERP product, it's our software. RISE is sort of like the infrastructure offering and the service offering from SAP. And I did a little note to myself about why why RISE adoption is still so poor. And here's the challenges I picked up. Misalignment between the expectation, SAP pre-sales lizards and what they spin, and the reality of what you get from a service. Because RISE is marketed as a comprehensive all-in-one cloud ERP offering. It's not. Underwhelming service levels. So most of the customers are already on cloud with their ECCs. They're getting 99.9% uptime. RISE only offers 99.7%. Okay. Erosion of trust due to operational challenges. RISE isn't particularly good. So SAP aren't a hyperscaler. They don't have those processes in place. So they're slow. They're really slow when you've got BAU issues. The adoption rate's declining and there's talent retention issues. So from a service offering perspective, RISE doesn't do it now. RISE has been replaced by something else now. But it doesn't matter. It's still that bit about SAP still aren't quite there as a hyperscaler. Have you had people talking about that this week?
There's still the hyperscaler mix. Yes. Back to your point, hyperscaler. What do hyperscalers do? That's their day job. This is what they do. That's all they do, right? And they'll host your SAP on a hyperscaler,
Yeah,
or RISE on a hyperscaler. That's their lunchbox. Now,
yeah. I mean,
RISE is not. It's supposed to be comprehensive. Now, you're actually spot on with the 99.7, and that's approximately 2 hours a week downtime, unscheduled downtime.
Yeah.
Can your business suffer that? That's the advertised SLA, but in fact, their actual delivery time is higher than that. It's up and around the 99.8, 99.9. So, but if you go to buy 99.9, you're going to pay 50% more in cost to get that guaranteed uptime. But if you're getting the standard 99.7, you're actually getting 99.8 on average. But now how do I translate that back? It's when you buy a new internet service provider, you get a new broadband. Oh, it's up to a gigabyte speed, but that's the trick is in the language. It's up to, right? At certain times of the day, it might not be as fast as it could be. So they've got themselves a caveat by their standard offering being at 99.7. It really depends on the customer. Buyer beware. What do you want? What do you need for your business?
I think that's right. I mean, if you're running a service business which isn't follow the sun, 99.7 is fine. But I think there's a bit of just about Christian stood up at the November investor briefing and said he'd fixed the RISE service levels, etc. And Thomas came in, and Thomas was supposed to do that. And I felt that last week at Orlando, from a service perspective, they offered there's 3 layers of service now. So I don't know. I mean, gold, platinum, silver, or some old bollocks. But they've offered sort of like new service levels, but they haven't really addressed the problem. And I just think there's a bit about it was announced last week. There was deals done with AWS with Rise. This week, big announcements posted this morning about Microsoft with Rise and stuff. But I just don't think it matters. I mean, if you're already running most of your estate on Azure anyway, and your ECC's on Azure, then you have to go to all the faff of then moving to Rise Azure. Azure's Azure. The only
Yeah.
difference is it's even the same proxy data center. The only difference is there's a little bit which is there's an air gap, which is the segregated bit for Rise. It's a faff. It's a needless faff, which is a barrier.
So just again, I'm going to attempt to translate that a little bit, but imagine if that was all on premise and you've got all your other critical applications in your data center, in your building, or in your basement, whatever else. You'd have it segregated from your SAP anyways, in a different part of the server room, right? Now we have moved forward from that, hyperscaled off there, and they're putting together a service offering. But I continue to go back to this. AWS have been doing hyperscaler since 2007. Microsoft GCP came into it much more recently. SAP, Oracle came into it more recently as well. So who knows more about provisioning, elasticity than the people who have been doing it for a longer time? So,
but you got there's the reality of the situation on the ground, which is got a client moving on to Rise with their S4 from ECC. And the customer still doesn't quite get the trade-off between project basis and SAP basis in Rise and who's doing what in BAU space from a service design. But from a project perspective, like sandbox, dev, QA, pre-prod, and then prod, who does what where? And it's confusing.
Well, see, the trick has got to be in your RACI model when you set up your program.
Yeah, absolutely. But then we're having, and you're right, because we do that, we know the answer. So we know the answer. We can mentor the customer really well, but SAP have made it murky. Every time you make something messy, it takes the customer's attention away from all the great stuff going on. I was evangelizing this morning SAP. What does SAP do really, really well? You know, we SAP is just fantastic. But all the time there's these niggly bits, it takes people's attention away, doesn't it? And I just think, do really well. Let the hyperscalers, like you said, be the hyperscalers. Doesn't matter. Who cares? What else? What else did you see, Paul?
Really, really great networking opportunities, and the actually good pieces. At this Sapphire, I've actually spent a lot of time going out and seeing the different vendors, speaking to them. No one is giving it big salesy stuff. You can go and talk to people, have a good conversation with them, and if you like, I've been working with a client on this particular visit, and I've actually you draw the lines of engagement with them, and go, we're not here to buy. Don't go harassing us. We're here for information gathering for our future implementation. Yeah. By all means, contact us, but turn off your marketing machine. But we were actually sitting in one suite, and marketing kicked us out of the suite because they had to have a marketing meeting. I'm going, we're customers. Marketing, go away, because you're looking at some airy fairy fluffy thing down the line. We're actually talking turkey here. Some people are so full of their own self-importance, and I mean vendors. But that steel customer I spoke to, he said that they fired their first SI. I'm not big on firing your SI. Why not? I'm interested in getting the right SI the first time round, and then making sure that they work with us. But then that's back to the customer's expectations, allowing the SI to do SAP to you. You've got this where the ownership has got to come into this. You've got to own your own implementation, because it's going to be your organization for the next 5, 7, 10 years.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, No SI sets out to fail. All the SIs generally are very, very good. You set your stall out right at the beginning, don't you, with your phase zero in terms of setting yourself up for success. And we've got a book on that. But it's about how you set yourself up for success. It's about understanding your own capacity and capabilities and your own weaknesses and where you need help. Some clients are very strong in some areas, some clients aren't. And every customer journey is different. Every customer's different, but also the points of differentiation are different. So the bit about SAP used to say, clean core, fit to standards. That's counterintuitive because many customers have still got points of differentiation, which you need to build into your architecture. And you only really discover those during a phase zero, which is, what are my required outcomes? What are those things which are special to us, which maybe SAP don't really do particularly well. I mean, we've seen it, haven't we? When we look at that phase zero stuff we did with that global tech company, which was heavily bespoke. And they had some processes there which they built out in legacy ABAP, which they were going to re-implement in S4, just because S4 couldn't do it. So there's always going to be a need for some form of localization, I think. And SAP needs to adapt that. I'm going to ask you one last question before we go, right? And you said you're talking to an Asian steel customer.
Yep.
And I raised a question last week about why is there no Sapphire in Southeast Asia or Asia? Well, why is it Orlando in Europe? Why is there not one there in Asia? If you look at it, if SAP's if 32% of all revenue is being driven out of sort of like South Asia, China, and Southeast Asia at the moment, why is there no Sapphire Asia?
Well, they did TechEd in Asia, didn't they? A couple of years.
But why is there no Sapphire in Asia?
I take your point, and it's actually a good point because an awful lot, and I'm going to go about Indian companies. 3, 4, 5 years ago, Indian companies were not big enough to have their own ERP. Now the Indian market is massive.
Mid-tier, come on.
Yeah.
S4, what is it? SaaS ERP now? Come on. Mid-tier.
No, but they need it now.
Absolutely.
And so therefore, I'm agreeing with you. They need a Sapphire in Asia.
Plus all those companies trying to do business in China who've got their own sort of like 2-tier architecture where they've got their own separate S4. I think there needs to be, doesn't there?
And to operate in China, you actually have to have a separate landscape because of the Chinese government requirements.
Let's bang the drum. Let's bang the drum for an Asian Sapphire. I think that's what we need to do.
I don't think I'll make it over there because I don't think my alcohol, my liver will put up with the alcohol. But that's Sapphire for you. Because there've been some good evening events as well. Lots of networking, lots of great things to meet.
Yeah. All the stuff I hate. All the stuff I truly hate.
Yeah, but it's my sweet spot.
Do you know what? You just enjoy it. I'd probably be in prison by now. I probably would have assaulted someone, be done for ABH or GBH or something. Some awful pre-sales lizard would have just come up to me and said the wrong thing. I would have gone boom. Anyway,
actually, there's been none of that. There's all been nice casual chat. So no one's trying to flog into anybody.
White sneakers. What colour shoes you got on, Paul?
I've got my yellow parkrun sneakers, mate.
Right.
So I've gone somewhere in the middle between business shoes and the white sneakers. I've gone with my rebel yellow slippers.
But lots of white sneakers about. Everyone with their
not so much because I'm actually that upsets me. Like if you look at it, most boardrooms are still full of middle-aged, unfortunately, men. And then we're trying to sell them a multi-million-dollar solution, and you're gonna arrive there and pitch up in a t-shirt with sneakers on and a man bun and a suit that doesn't fit. I know I'm not buying if that's the case. And so and I'm not insisting that someone shows up in a shirt and tie. That's far too old school. But
what about a nice Dragon ERP zip?
Well,
sports
exactly.
jacket. Oh, that's what I would go.
But it's lovely. It's just it's you're not trying to pretend that you're something that you're not. You put your
Uh,
badge on the label, going dragging
so
our hair,
I tell
or
you something our glorious CEO said to us today, said to me today, which is when we talk about our SAP get fit and turnaround, okay, the point made to me was they don't want to hear another Deloitte, EY, PwC, Accenture, Emphasis. They don't want that because they're the people who've already let them down. They want something different, and I think that's true.
they do. But it's look, you and me can work with anybody, and we can turn anything into success as long as you isolate the implementation team from whoever. Let's just say, now, if we're in doing governance or assurance, or even if we're doing the full implementation ourselves, we're going to bring in the right people to do the job. We don't, it's not about the A team to deliver and the Z team, sorry, the A team to sell and the Z team to deliver. That's what unfortunately a lot of SIs do. But we're in roles that we've worked on with SIs, we make them successful. You make everybody
I,
successful.
I think that's right. I mean, I think you're spot on because I do believe no SI goes out to fail. The name of the game, we're end of the day, we're like football managers. We go in, we pick up a failing team. Okay, you know that you've got limited time, you've got limited budget, and you've got to really work with the players you've got. And it's about how do you get the best out of that team. And the SI is part of that. If they're underperforming, you help them to perform. You read them the right act. You lay out what the expectations are. You remind them what good looks like. You explain to them what you want to see going forward. No problem at all. They normally turn around. They normally deliver. We move forward. We normally deliver. End of drama. And I think it's about if you, and I've been blogging this a bit recently, which is a bit naughty, but I don't care. Which is I still believe the biggest problem in the entire delivery piece is procurement and about the whole procurement process and about how procurement drive costs down, makes SIs perform badly, takes
Yes,
costs
the
out.
celebrity keynote begin in 30 minutes. Please
And
leave your available.
and I just think procurement one of the problems which cause SIs to perform badly sometimes.
Well, because they've got so much process involved, and they're ticking boxes to get through stuff. Um, so good point on the procurement, but uh, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and go. Very often, customers go and they fire the SI. I'm gonna compare that because if you fire the SI, you're going to have to go and get another one.
Yeah,
That's almost equivalent for rip and replace one ERP for another, because the amount of disruption you're going to cause to your program or your business, like all tier one, and I think it came from you, Alisdair, but
mm,
correct me if I'm wrong, they're pretty much the same.
yeah,
Whether it's Oracle, whether it's SAP, whether it's
yeah,
Infor, whether it's, the, the tier ones, they all do the same thing and they all do it pretty good. So ripping one out, replacing it with another, it's a no-win
yeah, yeah,
situation.
yeah. I think
The same with the SI.
yeah, yeah. No, no, you're exactly right. I mean, and it's the same. Partner X will get sacked and partner Y will come in, and on another program, partner Y will be sacked and partner X will come in. And it's just like, it's all about making sure you've got the right team. You have to look at the SI, you have to look at the people coming in. You've got to make sure you've got the right people in the right roles. There's no problem with a blended onshore, offshore, nearshore model. It's all about people, isn't it? Most of what we do is remote anyway. It's about being in the right place at the right time to deliver. Good conversation, Paul. I'll let you get off. I've got some work to do as well. See you
All
later.
right, mate.
Safe trip
Cheers.
back. Bye bye.
Okay, thanks, mate. Bye bye.